All right, welcome to the Real Estate Power Hour.
Boom!
Hey, you're peaking the online community out there, by the way.
Want to let them know we're here.
We're streaming live at kntrtalk.com, of course,
Yeah, I have December.
into January.
Yeah, and we'll talk about January too at some point. I guess I'd say it is a busy morning before the show because I'm putting the numbers together both for this and then my monthly update I send out on email. But we're going to start comparing to 2008 because it's interesting to me. A lot of the folks out there might have been kids back in 2008 and now, and they're totally different markets and different reasons for what's happening right now. And right now, we have homeowners sitting on 2.7% mortgage. Every month they make a mortgage payment, their house value, they gain equity, even if the market doesn't move because a bunch of the money is going to principal. Take it back to 2008, I know quite well. You were making your interest-only payment. You were getting nowhere. The market values were falling. You were worried about the adjustment that had already happened or was going to happen. So right now, a seller is sitting on a house, and somebody gives them a low offer, and they're like, I have a 2.7%, and every month I pay it down another grand. And compared to 2008, where like you made a lowball offer to probably the bank at that point for a short sale, and the seller didn't even care about the house. They were taking stuff out of it to bring to their new house, wherever they.
What were rates then? Do you guys remember?
2008, we were seeing rates probably in the high fives.
In the high
And
fives.
the rates were still.
Okay.
Now, the reason I preface that way, I don't want this to come off negative on what's happened with the sales, because our market is relatively stable, although falling a little bit, but stable. But in December of 2008, I pulled the MLS numbers this morning. I haven't gone back to that for a while. And take you back in history, you've got Barack Obama was just elected. He wasn't in yet. We had the stock market gyrating 1,000 points a day in November.
Wait, January 08, Obama was not elected yet.
No, this is December 08, if I said January.
Okay, my bad.
So December 08, we...
You're right.
Yeah, so, and the world was crazy. The mortgage meltdown was in full swing. Per the Havasu MLS, and I was selling at that time, 82 homes sold in December 08. In last month in Havasu, 67 sold.
Ooh.
Single families. So if you're a realtor out there and you feel slow, that's why. If you're a broker out there and you feel slow because there's not even hardly any refinance, that's why you might feel slow. But in 08, inventory was exploding. I mean, and there was shadow inventory, and they're talking about how many homes does the bank have and all this stuff. Right now, inventory actually fell last month. We were about 325 a month ago. We're at 317 this morning, and we're relatively, our team's busy. We carry a lot of listings, so we feel the activity. Things are still moving. There's just, inventory is low, rates are higher, but it's crazy how few homes are selling.
I remember the lexicon might be the right word in 08 was short sale.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
I've seen one period that I can think of.
Explain what that is, just, 30 seconds.
Oh, and we don't have much of it right now because the values are up double, some cases triple from what people bought.
You owe more than what your house is worth.
Yeah, if you owe more than what you're worth and you want to sell the house, the bank's got to allow you to do it. We're not seeing much of that yet. Now, although it's come back a little bit, if somebody bought a year or two ago, they could be in that situation a little bit, 3, 4, 5%, but not like 08 where values ended up eventually in Havasu correcting almost 50%. We're nowhere near that at all. I don't even see it possible.
Chad, did you have a question?
Nope.
No.
I'm just listening.
He's just writing stuff down.
Numbers.
All right. So you had, in the 60s here in December.
Yeah.
Now, what's going on in January?
In January, it doesn't improve much.
This is kind of scary.
Yeah, January is a crazy number, although pendings have picked up now. Pendings mean we'll have more closings in February. But from January 1st to the 17th this morning, I pulled it. 26 homes have sold this month. Ooh. We're more than halfway through the month. That'd be the all-time lowest sales numbers I've ever seen. December was the lowest I've ever seen.
Yeah, that would be 58 if that holds.
Yeah, and it might even be less because we're more than halfway through.
Right.
52.
January.
52.
Yeah, January 1st to 17th, 2009. That's when President Obama was getting inaugurated, and we were just coming into the mortgage crisis. 29 had sold. The 1st to the 17th. So
yeah, 29. That's the number
So we're at 26 this morning. Now, although we may beat 09 because if a few closed today during the day, and Penn. But those are the kind of slow sales numbers. But keep in mind, it's totally different situation. We have falling inventory. We have people that don't want to sell. This may be an industry correction for 10, 15 years. Because if somebody took a 30-year fixed 2 years ago at 2.7%, even 15 years from now, they're going to be more reluctant to sell that house than they have been in the history of the United States. Because when you're sitting on free money, you're sitting on free money,
No
whether
question.
it's now or 20 years from now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people that have portfolios and things such as that, you're making more money than what the interest rate is on your home, so you're making money. And I think that's if folks that listen to the show, we've talked a lot about the cash market, how the cash market has gone upwards of the high 40s. So 46 to 48% of all the retail sales in Lake Havasu, Bullhead, and Kingman have been cash. So, and it's because of the interest rate, or I think that that's a big factor in that.
Bobby, speaking of inventory,
Yeah.
do you have those numbers?
Yeah, no, inventory is interesting too. I mean, it fell to 319 from. It's been running 325 plus for a bit, but it's falling. And what's interesting, total pendings. I didn't write. I had them. Oh, existing single family pendings. We were like under 100 last month. I think it was like 60 or 70, the lowest I'd ever seen. It's all the way up to 113.
Wow.
I'm very active in our office right now with people showing property that we haven't seen in months, and that's time of year too. But it's also because although the sales numbers are low, there's more and more pent-up demand. Every month this happens. People have to buy to move, to sell. People die, unfortunately. I mean, all kinds of things happen. And there's pent up, and I can feel it doing what we do on a busy scale. That doesn't mean that the market's not, I mean, these numbers, there's 800 plus agents in Havasu and 67 sold last month. You can understand where the industry's at. It's a scramble. But
So meanwhile, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you listen to Speak Out on an avid basis,
Yeah.
city manager's office tells me that the short-term rental listings, the short-term rental registered properties in Havasu are over 1,300 now. It started when they started that directory, that map, at around 1,100. Now it's up 200 more since then. So that's in about 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that number. I didn't listen to that
over,
show.
It's over. If you go to the city's website, lhcaz.gov, and look for that map, there's over 1,300 of them.
it's pretty
listed there.
saturated too. I mean, we have a vacation rental in a
Yeah.
different market where it's not saturated. It's a very good thing. But here, it is pretty saturated. They're not getting the high rates.
But you take
They were
those
getting.
off of that map,
Yeah.
they could go into inventory.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm seeing some of those lists now. I have I don't want to say a pocket listing, but a listing that people don't want it on the MLS. It's like over $3 million. They're VRBOing it, or Airbnb, and there's ones we're getting listings in the 400,000 or 500,000 range where they've just decided they're not. The more that gets saturated, the lower the nightly rate is, and of course, then the less motivation to keep it. But that being said, in 08, I'd go show properties all day long. I'd show vacant homes all day long. Now, every single house you show is occupied. So,
That's
so many
interesting on its own.
That's what's so interesting. That's why I'm not scared of the market, although our values are coming back a bit. But at the same time, they doubled since like 19, right? So,
What's the year over year 22 versus 23 in December as far as value? The median value.
The median year over year, we were 450 last year. We're 420 now. That's 6.67% down. That's the middle number, the median. But interesting enough, the average, and this is where these get skewed with high-end sales too, but the average was up 3.42%. If you just average them out, we were 533. Well, I have to pull it back, but we're down 3% on the average. They're both 3 to 6% year over year, but that's not that big a difference.
If memory serves me right, so over 22 to 23, we've gone down roughly 14%, give or take. Is that right?
Well, this is where you get in. By the time we got to December last year, you remember the second half of last year was very slow.
It was weird year.
We dropped about 10% or more from, maybe I don't have them right in front of me, from July of last year. Not 2022 we're talking now, actually. That was our first slowdown when rates went up. So year over year from December to December we kind of bottomed out last year, but then we came back up by June, and then we've come. So it depends. My first book in college, Psychology 101 of all classes, was How to Lie with Statistics. So depending
You
on
mean like the jobs numbers?
like how you can pull it, but year over year we're down a little bit.
Any mortgage news? You always bring some juicy tidbits onto the program.
I want to hear that.
Got all kinds of it. There's been a lot of movement as far as interest rates becoming lower. So we've been seeing that, but the last couple of days, the sentiment was that the feds are going to, when they meet later this month, there was anticipation that we may start seeing rates or them starting to lower the prime rate. But it doesn't appear that that's going to happen. So, and that just changed very rapidly in the last couple of days. Lenders last week were building into their rate sheets or their pricing sheets the anticipation that rates were going to start to come down, which would make people more active in the bond markets. But that changed. I mean, the markets were closed on Monday, but it looks as though the sentiment has changed. And now with the retail numbers and things that are coming in and the jobs numbers, it looks like they're going to hold even through the March meeting. And that is going to hopefully keep interest rates somewhat stable. But whereas last week we were seeing interest rates on conforming or conventional loans in the sixes again, which for us was great news because 6 months ago or 4 months ago we had interest rates in the mid sevens. So we've seen a decrease in rates. Unfortunately, I was in the office very briefly this morning. I was handling some administrative things. I didn't really run any scenarios to see where rates what they've done since the news has started to come out that they're going to hold tight on prime. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. The biggest thing, and we've been talking about this for a couple months, is credit card debt and what's going on there, equity. I mean, Americans on average we're sitting on about $30 trillion worth of equity in our properties, and our credit card debt is now is very close to $1.1 trillion. So a lot of folks, and Bobby brought this up, if you have 2.7% on your mortgage, refinancing it into the sixes just doesn't make a lot of sense. So the HELOC product and the home equity product are going to start becoming more and more nouveau because, the soup of the day, the soup of the day, because when you have credit cards that have an average interest rate of 24%, even though interest rates on second mortgages are, at some points double digits, 9 and 10%, it's still half of what you're paying on the credit card. So we get a lot of calls for folks that, say, hey, I got $50,000 in credit card debt. And unfortunately, the environment or the economy throughout the last couple of years has forced people to use credit cards to live. Not everybody, but average, like me, I'm an average Joe. I'm no different than anybody else that, works every day. So I think that there's going to be a breaking point, and a lot of folks that did take advantage of those lower interest rates are really going to start looking heavily at the HELOC product. We're getting more and more calls for that quite regularly. And regardless of where you live, it's not just Arizona, it's everywhere. We're talking about nationwide. So folks are going to have this debt that they need to really start considering, what am I going to do with this? Because the greatest invention for banks was daily interest. Interest upon interest upon interest. People go, well, I have a 0% interest credit card for 18 months, and that's great. But most folks,
there's compound interest coming.
The compound interest
Right.
is crazy. I have folks, they say, well, I got 2 credit cards and they're at 0% interest. And I ask, how much do you owe on it? Well, I owe $26,000. Well,
okay.
I mean, that's all fine and dandy, but historically, if you look at your commitment to paying those credit cards off, most folks, we just don't have it. We're creatures of habit. Say, hey, okay, I'm going to pay my credit cards at $500 a month, but that's not going to touch your $24,000 because at the end of the day, at the end of that 18 months on that 0%, even if you paid $500 a month, that's $12,000. Okay, you still have $12,000 left, and how much money is left in your monthly budget to do that? So I've said this many, many times before. When you write your check for your mortgage, you don't put 2.7% in the dollar amount. What's the dollars and cents? And can we show you a way to save money? And can you use the equity? Once again, we go back, nearly $30 trillion in equity in the United States right now, which of course is down. But can we show you a way to free up some of your budget so that you have a way to, live within your means and do things with your family. Because travels, people aren't traveling as much, it seems. Even here in Havasu, we're a resort town, and I haven't seen as many people this snowbird season as I have in the past. Obviously when COVID happened, we got shut down as far as travelers from Canada and things such as that. But I just think that the equity in people's properties is really going to come into play. And I think that the refinance market for folks that purchased homes in, say, mid-23 to now, as soon as the interest rates start to really kind of make sense, the refinance market will start again. It's not time yet. We get calls and they're like, well, I'm at 7.5%, but then when you look at the dollars and cents of the whole thing, it doesn't make sense to refinance. It has to make sense financially because you're going to have costs involved when you do a refinance. Okay, so if it costs you, $2,500 or $3,000 to refinance, whatever the number is, depending upon the loan amount, how long does it take to make that money back? Yes, sir.
I didn't know if you were done yet.
No, you know me. I can go on forever.
Well, we're going to take a break here in a minute,
I
wanted to ask you both. Okay, so if you were to say how many adults, what's the percentage of U.S. adults that carry credit card debt from month to month? What do you think that percentage is?
I would say it's high.
How high?
I don't know, actually. That's a great question. I'll Google it while
I don't
we're
know if I want to know.
Yeah.
This is from
Do you know the number?
Yes.
Oh.
This is from Fortune magazine from 5 days ago. All
Okay.
right, an article. A new report by Bankrate found that 35% of U.S. adults carry credit card debt from month to month. That's up from 29% last year, and 46% of credit card holders carry debt from month to month on at least one card. That's up from 39% last year. What's worse, this is worse. Apart from higher debt balances, 43% of U.S. adults that carry balances don't even know all of their interest rates, which could lead to a vicious debt spiral if not managed carefully.
Well, once again,
43% don't know their interest rate on their cards.
Well, you have an average interest rate, I believe, is 24.3% right now.
Crazy.
The
So
average
it's
right
crazy.
now, it says, is 20.04, according to creditcards.com.
Yeah.
But most of them are up over 29.
Oh, sure.
Easily.
It's massive. It's massive money. So, and the compound interest.
Credit cards will
Right.
destroy
It's
you.
the greatest invention for banks ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they
and
make
as Dave
more money.
Ramsey says, it's a product.
Oh, it is.
Oh,
a
that's it.
huge,
He
huge,
talked
huge
about it
product.
really well.
Oh, absolutely. And use a debit card, a Visa debit instead of a credit card.
Yeah.
He's changed the way I spend money.
Yeah.
For sure. Somebody had recently said, if you buy my house, I got a broker for you. And I go, no, you don't. No, you don't have a broker for me because I'm loyal to one broker.
Oh,
So the time is coming, Chad.
Is it?
It is drawing near.
it's
yes.
getting there. We're
Hopefully.
starting to dovetail off of that. For the first-time home buyers, we're starting to see some homes that are really coming back into the spec of being
100%.
able to have the first-time home buyers come back out and play, or get into the market, if you will. And it's crazy because you think about it. First-time home buyer homes are, in the $300,000 to $400,000 range now, whereas going back to 2008, they were what, 140? I mean, it's crazy. So and I've said this many, many times before, is that people always ask us, when's a good time to buy real estate? Last week.
Oh.
It's always a good time to buy real estate. And the biggest thing that we're combating in the mortgage industry, or we have been over the last 18 months, is the interest rates, where folks are kind of being priced out. Even if we saw a $300,000 house, which goes in 2.9 nanoseconds, and with the cash numbers being so high, people are still buying them as vacation homes, and the first-time home buyers are getting beat out by cash offers. But my point being is that now that the interest rates are starting to slide and come back down into reasonable levels, we're starting to see more first-time home buyers coming out. And there are products out there that have down payment assistance. They're difficult to deal with, but we can do them where you can get 0% down. And in, say, Golden Valley, Kingman areas such as that, more rural areas, and in Mohave County, they have USDA financing, which is 100%. VA and USDA is 100% financing, and with USDA, you can actually, if the home appraises for more than the contract price, you can finance closing costs. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but So we're starting to see more first-time home buyers come to the plate for a shot at knocking one out of the park, and to go digress. When's a good time to buy real estate? Now, always now, because it's always going to be a long-term play. More people have made more wealth in real estate than any other vehicle over history. Going back to the medieval times. A lot of the terminology, if you remember from your real estate exam, meets and bounds and sections and townships, that all comes from medieval times. So the interest rates have kind of kept those first-time home buyers out, but now we're starting to see that come back, which is a pleasure, because there's nothing better than at you as a realtor handing the keys to a first-time home buyer.
And remembering when it was me
Yeah,
years
exactly.
ago. It was the greatest thing I ever did for our family
Of
when
course.
we did our first one.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Bobby, you have more numbers?
I have some, and I was going to dovetail off that too.
We always like to hear about $1 million homes and cash buyers.
Yeah, and
We don't like the cash buyers.
Well, no, we want to hear the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just messed up radio because I have my cash numbers somewhere, but I know it was about 40%. But I'm looking for the numbers. But the $1 million sales. And I was going to dovetail off Chad. Don't wait to buy land and wait. Say it's real estate.
Yeah.
I mean that.
Really?
Dude, that
That's
was
a
a
good one.
that was a
Will
poem.
Rogers, I think.
Yeah. That's like, what is it? Date, marry the house, date the ring?
Oh, yeah, I love
Yeah.
that one. That one was good.
No, what was that one you just said?
Don't wait to buy land and wait. And
Nice.
it's not mine. That's Will Rogers. But
Ah.
it's so true. Anything, even when, and people get caught up with, it's going to crash. It's going to crash. It's going to crash. Well, it's never. I mean, you never know what can happen in the world. But it's never going to crash like #08 unless a meteor hits the planet. And we've already had a correction, and it's already, although the numbers are slow, it's not. We should have already been crashed, which
Yeah.
tells me.
Yeah.
And think about this too, off the $1 million numbers, not being the political part of it, but there's how many people they're saying a day coming across the border? 10, 15,000, millions over the course of a year. They all have to live somewhere. They're not all living on the streets, trust me. And then you might say, well, they're not necessarily in Havasu. Well, they're taking up apartments in Southern California, and then people are moving out of, and it makes in Phoenix and all these places. When you have millions more people coming in the marketplace, we're not building that much housing. And that's why there's a shortage. That's why it's so different. That's why when I go show property, it's all full now, where in #08 it was all empty,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But,
It makes a lot of sense.
On your answer on the $1 million homes,
Yes.
we sold 4 last month. Just had it on my screen too. Out of the 67 single families that closed, that percentage is down a little bit because we'd been running close to 10%.
Do you have the high number on that? The highest sale?
Well, the highest one just closed, and it was 2.8.
2.8
That was
million.
and that's not one of the 4. That was in January. There's only 7 of them that have closed since January 1st. That's since December 1st. So that's more than the 4, but it's including this month too. Most of them were in the million. 117, 13, 1375, 15, 1.875, and then there's 2 over 2 million. And we see these big fancy homes on the market. Sometimes you see 3 million or 5 million or crazy numbers. There's only been a couple homes ever really that have sold over 3 in town, and we've never had anything sell over 4. Maybe there was one a few dollars over, but the reality is the market, even the $1 million market, is about 1 to 2 million, and we get a few occasionally over 2 in general.
Okay.
So it gives you.
So you don't have the cash number then?
I didn't. I had the paper, but somewhere between getting here and it's harder to pull up on. I have my laptop going.
I know you gave Chad some scratch paper, so it might be in his.
No, yeah, maybe I'll find it behind the end of the show in some random pocket. And my Jen in the office, who does the numbers for every month right now, if she's listening, she's getting really upset because she spent an hour figuring it out.
Oh,
this
boy.
morning for me. But it was about 40%, I think. If I had, I just didn't have the exact numbers.
And then what about condos and townhomes?
Condos and townhomes, quite a few. 12 condos. That's in addition to the 67.
Right.
And manufactured was 8. And so there's another 20 right there. It was, I think the total.
So 87?
Yeah. So, and then to give you perspective too on that 67 number earlier, and I forgot to tell you guys this, but 2021 we were booming. But to show you the percentage down, 2021 in December we sold 185 homes.
21.
21.
Wow.
So,
Whoa.
67's a much smaller percentage
yeah.
than 185.
Just a little bit.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. How about yourself?
Just good. This is Dallas. How
Hey,
you guys
Dallas.
Dallas?
Hey, Dallas, how are you?
doing? I'm doing good.
Hey, anybody that doesn't know this, Dallas, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Dallas is the proprietor of the chair. You should really go down there and insist that he and his brother do their rap show for you.
Really?
Oh, it's insane.
Oh, wow.
It's insane awesome.
What can we help you with, Dallas?
Hey, I just had a little bit of insight and a couple questions. So, you might know I have a STR, a short-term rental, in town, and I subscribe to a website called AirDNA, which basically tracks all the STRs in the market, and you can choose whatever market you want. So I, obviously do the surrounding areas, but in Havasu, it lists over 1,700 STRs in the market. 1,700. Now,
Wow.
That's probably because some of them aren't registered, so Lake Havasu doesn't pick up that number. But my question is with travel being less, and I know a couple realtor friends as well, but are you happy, or do you find that some houses that are for sale are short-term rentals and they're trying to get out of them?
That's
Oh,
a very,
that
very
would
good
be a
question.
Bobby question.
No,
for
there's
sure.
a chunk for sure, and there's more
Really?
you can feel. It's still in general especially compared to past markets that were bad. Most homes are occupied, but we definitely see people. We list a lot of homes. I mean, our team ourselves have 20 plus listings right now. So we're talking to people constantly. There's a lot of short-term rental people out there that do consider selling it, and it's an investment too. But the other part of it is a lot of people have the short-term rental because they like having the house, and also those short-term rental people have 2.7% mortgage rates. So every month
yeah.
their principal goes down, and so it's a different market. Being a realtor for 20 plus years, it's just 08 you present an offer, or a bad market you present an offer, and the seller's like, yeah, I should take it. But right now they're like, God, if I wait another year, I'm going to have my balance down another 20 grand, and they're making progress. But there is our short-term rental market's saturated for sure. I mean,
It's over 1,300.
he
That's
just
17.
listed
17 now?
on that, Dallas said, and
Oh,
I
boy.
believe that. That's why it jumped up about 200
Well,
with
I'm
the city
just going
last
by
month.
what's listed on the city's website.
Well, the city goes through them, and then they'll go through the list
Ah.
Dallas is looking at and start
Right.
to get their money. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. How are you doing with yours, Dallas? Pretty good or medium?
Very, very well. I'm considered a luxury property.
Yeah.
And we're big, so we're 6-bedroom, 4-bath, big property. So those seem to do very well.
They do.
Because everybody pitches in.
Right.
The 3-2 houses, it's a tough go.
Yeah, you end up getting like 125 a night, and it's like hard to make it go. But
Right.
the houses like yours, then people pay big bucks for it. So it's still, even with that would be my one concern about the market for sure. And I see a little bit of it, but it still goes back to, we don't have people sitting on interest-only loans or they're sitting on a low rate, and so even if they're motivated to sell and they feel like they're losing money every month, even making the payment, they're still building equity in the sense that they're paying their rate down or their principal down.
Chad, what about interest rates? So we got about 3 minutes left. Where's it looking right now? Are we getting any relief in the next quarter?
I think Q1 is probably about where they're going to stick. I think Q2 probably the same. It's going to be tough to say. The next Fed meeting being later this month, and then the subsequent one being later in March.
Mm-hmm.
As I'd mentioned earlier, I don't think that we're going to see people turn into the bond markets to help stabilize that because of what's going on with the jobs numbers and the CPI and the retail numbers.
Consumer Price Index?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't think that they're saying now that the numbers, it looks like inflation is starting to stave off, but we don't really need to lower the rates, which will spike the bond markets, and then people get interested, and then the interest rates start to go down more. So I think Q1, in summation, Q1, Q2, we're probably kind of about where we're going to be. and you'll when we do the show next month or the month after, we can talk about what we're seeing as far as Q3. If we start really getting a break in Q3, that takes us into our summer season, which Lake Havasu is kind of opposite of any other market because we're a vacation town for a good lot of the sales, second homes. And if interest rates start to come down, I think we'll start seeing sales increase. And I'm hoping Bobby agrees with me. So I think right now we're kind of shooting for Q3 to start seeing rates. But once again, it's changed in the last 2 days. So last week there was really good sentiment that the interest rates were going to start to come down. They were going to start to lower, the prime rate or the Fed funds rate. But wake up Tuesday and it's like, oh, well, that's not happening now.
Our new
So
world.
I think right now we have to look forward to Q3, Q1, Q2. I think we're where we're going to be unless something changes. But we're still seeing interest rates in the high sixes on conventional type pricing. On FHA VA, we're seeing interest rates, or we were last week, in the low sixes. So FHA is actually, for folks that aren't putting 20% or more down, FHA is very attractive right now.
Chad Hansen, founder and CEO of Mohave Mortgage. Thanks for being here on the Real Estate Power Hour.
Boom!
All right, and Bobby Lewis, of course, from the Lewis team, Remax by the Lake. Appreciate the numbers as always, Bobby.
Great show, guys. Fun.
Stellar job.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
All right. Go bundle up, by the way. You need a jacket.
I know.
Not near you, don't. It's like a sauna.
Yeah,
all
it
the
is.
hot air floating around.
It's that hot coffee, too.
Yeah, is that what
Oh,
it
my
is?
goodness.
All right, back with more in a moment. Stay with us on Speak Out.